All right, we are adding to the amount of places here on property that we have filmed or recorded on.
I know.
Now we're on the practice tee here at Franklin Bridge, and welcome you guys to the No Mulligans podcast. So we just thought with our growing presence on YouTube, TikTok, everything else, we'd try something different here on the podcast. So we're out here on the practice tee hitting balls, and we thought since we do a lot of mindset content, we would actually start to give you guys some swing tips or maybe some poor swing tips, debunk some myths as well.
Yeah, that's right. And simplify, right? It's like there's plenty of, swing tip advice that's out there. I think there's been thinking over the last week what to talk about, but what are the things I hear every day, right? These are the things people bring to me all the time. One of the ones I definitely want to get into is about, how to evaluate a golf shot and work your way back from there, because we don't do that very well. And I've got some tools out here to be able to do that. But I think there's a world. We got Sam with us. Shout out to Sam Street. He's going to shoot some photos for us today and get some content that we can kind of get up. And so go check him out if you're in need of any photography stuff. So, but yeah, there's a way to evaluate what the golf ball's doing and not get fooled by it. So, So yeah, I don't know where to start.
Well, I guess let's start by this. I think that a lot of people have a lot of different warm-up philosophies, and I think since we're on the practice tee here, if you're warming up for a round, what do you think is the most effective way to get warmed up, yet also not tire yourself out for the next 18 holes, 4 hours,
You're talking more before we go out and play?
Yeah, that's right.
Not like getting ready to just come out and practice?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
It could be both, but since we're on the practice tee, I thought maybe getting ready to play.
That's fair. So I think, so we'll just go through what I would normally do. So I'll just take you through my routine and maybe give you the why of my routine before we get into the specifics. So the first one for me is really, if I'm coming out to warm up to get ready for an event, I will go, I'm going to shorten it, but I'll go 10 swings with just my right hand on the club with a wedge and 10 swings with just my left hand on the club with a wedge. Just trying to get solid contact. We're back to the strike.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that until I just said it, but speed and strike. So little swing, just trying to one hand, hit it solid. You can put your other hand wherever you want, across your chest, across your back. And I guess if you're listening to this podcast, this may be one you want to watch on YouTube. So to our YouTube people. So yeah, I'll just hit 10 shots with just my right hand. I'm probably just going to hit 5 here. Just trying to hit it really solid. I don't really care about anything else but a solid strike in my golf swing. A lot harder.
You can tell that's not my warm-up.
Reason for this is it allows me to be keenly aware very quickly of the errors that typically show up in my golf swing, which is excessive movement of my hips and knees. And so the only way for me to hit it solid doing this is to hold those nice and still. Whoops, there's a nice chunky one. Feel the knees move.
Yeah, and I guess for me, Scott, you're doing that one-handed. For me, I'm just grabbing a wedge first off and trying to finely tune that feel for where I'm hitting it on the club face.
Right. I'm a big believer, if you can't do it with a small club, good luck doing it with a long club.
That's a good one.
So there's no point in you really working up. And so I'll go left hand. You can keep going with 2 hands. And just a slow build up. So let the body get warmed up and get ready. Whoops. That's usually the problem side, my left side. But I think, I was going to say with that. But if you think of a sport like basketball, right? Since we're in basketball season, you have, what guys will do is they'll typically we start with little layup stuff, right?
Yeah.
Back, the whole team is off the backboard, next person, just that passing it back and forth off the backboard. Little stuff just to get the body loose, get it moving. Some basic fundamental stuff we're going to need, which is off the backboard rebounding, touches, little teamwork, interaction. When I bounce off the backboard, there's somebody behind me. So there's just little nuances in the game that I think apply. I don't know what baseball's like, because I stopped that and at the end of my mic screwing up.
No, I just want to make sure we're checking it. Make sure it's staying blue.
This is why we keep professional podcaster, amateur golfer, professional golfer, amateur podcaster. So
one thing I'm noticing too here, Scott, for those that would listen to our past podcasts, is
There we go.
as we're trying to find the strike, this is the time where I would start going big swing, like, medium-sized swing, find the strike. If I hit it well, then we'll start stretching it out a little bit.
That's right.
Keep it going. Kind of the same principle, like if you can't do it with the shorter club, you can't do it with the longer one.
Yeah, when you brought that up in the previous podcast, that's the same premise of this. I'm just more specific for my specific motion.
Sure.
So, I'm just trying to make sure I'm holding on to those fundamentals, not really working on my golf swing. Like, I'm aware of my errors, but I'm not here trying to hit perfect golf shots. So after I do that, I'll go into just a basic pitch like you're doing. Probably hit it about 30 or 40 yards. Focusing on the strike. That's thin as well. And so still not loose yet. Strike will get better as I get warmer.
Are we trying to shape the ball at this point, or are we still focused just on strike here?
I'm just trying to get the strike good and then try to hit one shape. I think that's one of the things we've talked about a good bit, is everybody's trying to do too much with the golf ball. There we go. Less is more.
Should people be paying attention to what their tendencies are too while they're warming up on what it's going to look like that day?
Well, that's a hot topic.
That is a hot topic.
Diving deep into that one, I think is tricky, is because people will do things here on the warm-up tee that they also won't do on the golf course. I think that's generally reserved for your better players. I'm more get in a single swing thought and run with a single thing.
Yeah.
Like it should be the same thing you worked on 3 days ago. It shouldn't be something new. So it's what does it look like that day? I think that awareness piece just comes with time.
Sure.
I don't think you get that real quick off the rip. So we'll go a little longer here. Feel good about that one. You're also going to see I club twirl on every swing. I think having some routine. You don't have to do your full pre-shot routine per se, or post-shot routine, but you're warming up. I just see people hit golf balls and just get so worked up before they go play. Like, see what kind of day it's going to be. It's going to be a bad day. I was like, who says? You already decided it's going to be a bad day, so it just is.
For sure.
Like, what's that about? Some of the best rounds people have played have been from the worst warm-ups because the expectations are so low.
Yeah.
And so they just go out and think it's going to be a bad day, and it turns out pretty good. And then, I don't know, it's just a golf ball, man. Like, it's just not that hard. Like, it is a game. Enjoy it, play it. Give me one swing thought and just ride with that for a few months. I don't know. I have one thing I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to do anything else. And I think one of the other things to your question, I think everybody's warm-up's different in terms of length.
Yes.
You should hit enough golf balls. I did a small study back in Birmingham when I was there, just trying to figure out like how long does it take to warm up, and it's roughly around 30 golf balls. So we did a test we had players hit golf balls with no warm up whatsoever. So like you just ran straight to the first tee. Had them hit a couple of 7-irons, a couple pitching wedges, and a couple drivers, and then I had them hit some golf balls. Just kind of get warmed up, get moving, and then retest again. Now, they didn't know how far they hit anything. It's kind of like this, just open air.
Yeah.
And so what we found was we increased our distance by almost 10%, and our accuracy improved by 30%.
Just by hitting a few golf balls.
Just by getting to, so 30 seemed to be about right. So
Yeah.
It's funny, our warm-up buckets, when I heard Brooks had warm-up buckets here, I was like, well, how many balls are in it? It's like, it's 25. I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
It's like right in the sweet spot.
And normally when you show up to a course, you're like, oh man, this tiny thing before I get to going?
Well, people are treating their warm-up like it's cramming before the final exam.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
What? That's not what it is. It's a warm-up.
It's true.
Like this isn't the test. The test is out there. And you can't if you're trying to cram something that, you're running from the office, like, I got to find my swing before I go. I was like, no, just come hit some golf balls, get loose, just go play.
Yeah.
I think creating the warm-up to be something that it's not is a problem.
And it could also be that those people who are doing that could be compensating for how little they've practiced as well, because they want to do well.
Well, that's back to the, I don't think people
are
afraid of success.
Yeah, that's
they're
right.
actually understand that they're unprepared for what's in front of them.
That's right.
So it's actually a fear of failure, and they masquerade, I'm just afraid of success. No, you're not. That's garbage. It's total garbage. So I just try to get some good solid strikes going with a pitching wedge. And if I've got that, then I move up. So to your question earlier about are you paying attention to what the ball's doing that day? Yeah. I mean, kind of I got a couple draws going. I'm also off a mat, which for me will typically draw a little less when we go play. For those that are tuning in that aren't familiar with Franklin Bridge, you'll notice that there's people behind us driving by because this is our warm-up tee, and we're the busiest golf course in probably the Southeast.
Yep.
So
it's the authentic experience, I'd be curious, Scott, how many people who listen to the podcast or who see Franklin Bridge on social media, how many of them would actually want to come and play the course? Will this place become a destination course for people?
It's funny that you say that. I did a FaceTime lesson today with one of my former college players who's now in law school, and they have Franklin Bridge on their simulator.
Do they?
It's from Google Earth, but you can tell because number 9 still the par 5.
Oh my goodness!
Not a par 3. He said, "You used to tell me about this hole all the time. I've never known it since I've only known it as a par 3."
They're gonna want to come down here and want to play it.
Yeah.
We'll say, well, you got to hike through some tall grass to get back to the tee box.
Tall grass. For those that are watching, you'll notice that I club twirl after every swing, no matter how good or bad it is. It's actually a habit I developed as a part of my college coach, John, who we call him John, as you know. We don't call him Coach John, Coach Woodhouse. But I remember sitting down with him in Branch Rickey Arena at Ohio Wesleyan after one of the semesters, and I had one of the lowest scores or worst scores for positive self-talk, which sounds odd because for those that know me, positive self-talk is probably one of my highest attributes.
Sure, yeah.
But it definitely wasn't when I was in college. And so one of the things I struggled with was my emotions were I wrote them like this. If I hit it good, it was great. If I hit it bad, I was down. And so, let's see, you hit one. That one's pretty there.
Feels good.
And so I kind of came up with this alongside him a little bit of when I hit a bad one, I just say, whoops. So
that makes sense now that I know you.
And then the other part I developed on my own is I club twirl after every shot, good or bad. My better ones are usually a little more aggressive, like that one. But that was a good one.
You can get some comments.
But the point being, by me, if I'm really frustrated after one, I tend to grip tighter on the golf club. I have to let that tension go. We talked about the snapping of the rubber band or yelling into a towel kind of thing.
Yeah.
I kind of squeeze in the grip, and then I have to let go enough to be able to let that club twirl go. And so it's a way for me to just kind of soften. So, at this point, I've hit about 15 shots. If you don't count the one-handed ones in total, so probably 10 or 12 to 15. I don't know exactly. And I'm up into a long iron, a 6-iron. I won't play hardly any 5-irons here, so I won't even hit those in my warm-up. So yeah, it's just warming up. Hopefully the viewers notice that you don't really see any negative reactions. We've both hit some pretty ugly shots. Jack's speak for yourself, Scott.
No.
I haven't hit any bad ones yet.
Well, we had a podcast on that too, just about.
That one, you'll notice, took me a little longer to do my club twirl because it was so bad.
We were talking about holding your finish, right? And especially that's one of our top performing TikToks, right?
Right.
holding your finish.
Hold your
and there's
finish.
also a mental reason behind that, right? Like,
Yeah,
because
so-
no matter what, you're going to try and get in the same position.
So I'm trying to have that same finish every time. The other thing by holding your finish that you get a benefit from is it gives you time to process what just happened. Sometimes you're so frustrated you just go ahead and pull the next ball. Gosh, that's good, dude. And so it's the design of that finish. It gives you a chance to think back to like, oh, that's right, that piece I was working on, I missed it there. Or, I don't know, let me hit another one. And then all of a sudden the next one, because you're paying attention at the end of each one, you're like, that's what was missing in that previous one. So you're able to make those connections by holding your finish on every shot.
Yeah.
You let your emotions out. You let your, you're allowed to process and kind of figure out. That's that like awareness piece that we talked about people suck at, like they just do. It's like, what is that? And finding that feel of that, I think is important just by holding your finish.
Yeah, and I feel like there's
so many problems are solved.
There's a lot of times too in rounds that I think we can all relate to this, where maybe we hit a really bad ball, and because we're so focused on how bad it was, we can't even find it. Like we're just like, oh man, like we let our emotions get in touch so quick that we don't even follow the ball down and can't even find the ball afterwards.
Right.
That was not the most succinct sentence there, but I still feel.
Yeah, but it makes sense. We follow it. So then I hit like.
I'm thinking about a lot of balls on 13 for me.
So I only hit 3 6-irons. People are like, well, I got to keep hitting it. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, remember, we're warming up. We're not training. We'll be training here in a minute, but like right now we are just purely warming up. And if I just hit one good drive, like I feel I got the motion down, I may not have hit any more.
Oh.
That may be all I do.
Yeah, I'm sitting here with the 7-iron in my hand, like, you know, after 7 or 8 balls, need to change clubs way quicker.
I mean, that was pretty good there. Touch toe side.
So I noticed you just went 6-iron to driver. That seems like a big jump, no?
Yeah, but I don't, like those clubs in the middle, A, I don't hit them very often. B, when I hit them, I'm not looking for them to be this crazy accurate club. Like,
Sure.
people are looking for long irons to be insanely accurate.
Ooh, I like that.
I'm not saying it's unimportant to hit them well. The value of that is low. And then the third one would be, I will hit a 4 hybrid off the tee here, off of a couple of tee boxes, but it's pretty much just like driver wedge all day out of this golf course for us.
True.
On most of the par 4s, so, or a driver short iron. So I don't really hit the others. If I can hit this one, I can hit all the others. That's really good there. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely gonna be some dead time on this podcast, which should be interesting to.
We'll be
for the
editing that
listener.
out.
Won't be as bad on YouTube, like, because they'll see us swinging.
True.
No, but like that's 2. I'll hit one more. I teed a little lower on the third one because that's a shot I'll typically hit out on the golf course. Just teeing it really low. Yeah, we're good. So at this point, I can go ahead and go to the first tee. Is my motion perfectly figured out? No. Is it warmed up? Do I feel loose? Like you can, I'm talking a lot too. So like the heart rate's up a little. Oh, nice chunk.
Big chunk.
Great swing. But there's just no, I just don't get the freaking out panicking stuff that people do. I'm going, that's a different problem that's not golf related. I mean, it is golf related.
Yeah.
Like you getting all upset about hitting a bad one, that's a much, much bigger problem.
Yeah, I think a lot of people too on the warm-up tee, they'll let the feel of the warm-up tee completely dominate their first 6 holes of golf.
Well, it felt like this. I'm like, well,
Good or bad, right? Because
Right.
then you have a good warm-up and you wonder why you bogeyed number 1, and then that feeds
part
in.
of the game. You're going to make bogeys.
Right.
I saw a Mo Norman video yesterday. I'll let you hit this ball. There you go. Now find a little draw off of that. I know that's that
Yep.
super stiff 2-iron.
That's also the hit me a high draw.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
hit me a high draw deal.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead and hit the high draw. But Mo was talking about, people come up to him and go, well, I gotta do, he's like, you don't gotta do anything. You don't have to hit the fairway. don't gotta hit the green. You don't. By the way, for those that are watching on YouTube, the iron I have in Jack's hand right now is largely a training iron, because if his motion has any errors in it, he can't hit this club.
This is a great club for me. It's because of that.
It is a 2 iron that's hard stepped, so it's even stiffer. And it's got less loft on it. So it's like a very stiff 2 iron. It has a steel fiber X Flex in it that is tipped to be even stiffer. So it is stiff, 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 and stiffer.
So what did it equate to? You said like a triple extra stiff?
It's like the way you would think about it in terms of stiffness, it would be like a triple X Flex shaft that is just difficult to hit. So if your timing's off, if your sequencing's off, if you try to hit it too hard or too soft, like it won't functionally work. It can't.
This is a good one to remind me too, because I will start hitting those like bleeder cuts with it, just simply because of where I feel it in my hand.
Correct. So the other thing I think is helpful for you with this is it's a little bit more like a baseball bat.
It is, very much so.
It's kind of boardy from your baseball background.
Very much so. And you do really have to be smooth with your sequencing.
I give this club out to about one person a year. It's usually one of my better players. There you go.
Getting better, but still can work in the draw a little bit more.
You can still hit that, try to hit that higher than that.
Totally.
And so, especially with your motion when it gets too steep, like you're just gonna hit it low.
100%.
Got to round you out.
Now, speaking of this club, because I do like it off the tee in certain situations, can we debunk the driver off of every tee theory as well? I mean, I shared the story on the podcast.
Yeah, it's like driver or bust, right?
Right, yeah, like hit it, and this goes back to what we were talking about in a previous podcast, of just hitting it to where you can see, especially if you haven't played a round of golf before at a course.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite pieces of advice that's come down from the tour and some other tour players that were on our team or that played while I was at the Hank Johnson School of Golf in Birmingham, totally lost my train of thought. Gotta love that. Isn't that fun? Swinging golf clubs thing. That was much better there. Not quite there. Now hit it higher from there and you got it.
Bingo.
But was this idea of, especially if you're playing a golf course blind, don't hit the ball into a place you can't see.
Yep.
So, to me, the part that, they look at the longest hitters on the tour, where they can cut corners and things like that. When they're doing that, your brain doesn't like not being able to see where it goes. We talk about how visual our brains are.
Yeah.
So you've got to create a picture of where that ball's going to land.
Yeah, it's almost like the world ends right where your vision ends, you know?
Right, and yeah, and so don't hit it into a place you can't see.
Yeah,
like hole 17 is a prime example out here. It's like, oh, I hit a really good drive. Like, I'm going to try and hit this ball to the left of the water hazard down that swale. Well, you can't see what's down there. Most people don't hit it well when they try to hit it down there with a long club in their hands. And so, I don't know, like, if you can hit driver really well, I think the debunking of that myth is actually the I have to X, fill in the blank. I have to hit fairway wood here. I have to hit driver here. I had a girl, Stephanie, that I taught down in Birmingham when she was in college. And her average, I'm not going to get this number exactly right. I could ask her and she could tell me, but this is 6 years ago. She was one of the straightest hitters off the tee I had known. Like, she hit it crazy stupid straight. She wasn't a long hitter either, but she could hit it straight as an arrow. And coach would have her in certain situations want her to hit a fairway wood or an iron off the tee. I was like, Coach, when she hits driver, she's hitting 80% of her fairways. Like, why wouldn't we just hit driver everywhere?
Sure, yeah.
She hits it crazy stupid straight, kind of like Braden is. Braden hits it crazy stupid straight. It's like, well, you shouldn't hit driver, you should only hit driver, or well, you shouldn't hit driver. Well, I have other players who shouldn't hit driver hardly at all. And so, like, in order to score lower on the average, not on any one situation, that's the part that people get in their heads, like, not in any one place, like on the average if you play this hole. Kind of a piece of advice that came from a college coach out of Texas was in their practice rounds. He had all of his guys play a par 5 2 different ways. They take their tee shot, they'd go for it with one ball, and they'd lay up with the other ball and play in. And they took the average score for the team during the practice round. Like on this par 5, if we all go for it into our average team score is X. And that's enough of a representative sample, right? You got like 5 to 10 guys. Like, all right, do we score lower when we go for it in 2, or do we score lower when we don't? So that's how they strategize on their par 5s. Like if you have a clean shot to go for it, then green light. So it's not you gotta do anything, or you should never hit. You should avoid hitting driver. This hole's a hole you shouldn't hit driver on. Well, for somebody who's stupid accurate with the driver, maybe they should hit driver on that hole and nestle it down there to 20 yards from the green. Maybe not. Like it's interpersonal dependent, and that requires awareness, which most people don't have.
Probably also goes to what we've talked about, is just knowing your own game as well. You know, there's some people where that's going to be the perfect strategy, and somewhere it's not, especially if you consider your irons a strength in your game as well.
Right. Well, hit a couple drivers, and then let's debunk since you got on that topic a little bit, let's go after my 3 least favorite swing tips of all time. 3 worst swing tips of all time.
Driver's been a little squirrely for me recently.
On people. Driver's squirrely?
Driver's been a little squirrely. You might get a little live tip session here from
Okay,
Massey.
well, let's have some fun with it. Let's see where we're at. So back to, we'll actually do, this will be great. So go ahead and hit this first ball, and then I'll do some chitter-chatting a little bit. Or not. Maybe you just need to hit that 2-iron more.
Yeah, maybe.
So when you're struggling with a club, to me, this is where you have to go through it. So set up for another one, hit another one. So I'm gonna have you hit 2 more. Hit 3 shots, not 1. People evaluate a single golf ball. Don't evaluate a single golf ball, evaluate multiple golf balls at the same time. So go ahead and hit it, you're good. I wanna see 3 shots, so you can keep hitting. I'm just gonna keep talking. Great, there's 2. You need to train more with that 2-iron, Jack. I'm guessing this is the best you've hit it in a while?
The best I've hit it?
In recent time.
My irons, yes, 100%.
Is this better than you've been hitting the driver?
These two ones going middle of the fairway, 280, 290, yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing you have to evaluate is, what is the ball doing? Then what is the club doing to cause the ball to do that? Then what must I be doing? Most people go for, I have something in my golf swing I want to fix. And if they have an instructor who's there, who's kind of guiding them, that's good. But even then, you need to go through the same process wherever you're taking lessons from. Is the question you should ask every instructor is, how does the ball know that?
Yeah.
If you ask me to change it, how does that make the ball do that? Now, there's a lot of people who can spout out, and I've done it before too, in order to convince somebody of something, but well, okay, because of this, that ball will do that. No, you have to make all the connections and connect all the dots. Most people will skip a bunch of steps. It's like, show your work.
Yeah.
Like, the ball's the final arbiter of whether it works or not. But it's like, can you show me the work before you ask somebody to do it? If you can't, so I've used this phrase, if you can't predict what they're gonna do, don't fix it.
Yeah. Man.
If you can't predict what the golf ball's gonna do not fix the motion. Whether that be the instructor fixing it or whether that be you fixing it yourself. Doesn't matter. If you cannot predict it, don't fix it.
And same thing if you're evaluating your own swing, I'm assuming, right? Yeah.
And don't just go like, well, somebody told me if I do this. Like, no, make the deeper connection. Do the math.
Yeah.
Do the hard work of if this, then that, if that, then this, if this, then that.
Yeah.
Right? So hit one more. Let me see if I've got this training aid in my bag. I think I do. Yeah. All right.
That'll be my miss right there. It's just a bleeder on the right.
All right. So we talked about this strike and speed, right? Speed and strike. So that was low heel, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So love me some Dr. Scholl's foot spray. Why don't you hit one, then maybe go show it to the camera briefly.
Oh, man. Look at you, Scott. Slowly but surely becoming an internet
guy.
I am working
my way towards professional YouTuber podcaster. I'm not there yet.
Me too.
Be able to quit our day jobs.
That's
All right, so high, slightly toe, so that ball should draw. The ball cut just a little bit, so that tells us that the club face must be open.
That's
right?
perfect, yeah.
So that tells us that the club face has to be open if it cut off of a high toe strike. Why? Because the ball that's hit towards the toe side should produce a draw. So whatever cut was in there, that hit it more.
And for people who might not know this, is that something that you just have to study over time as far as like what strikes are going to produce what outcome?
And so easy math here. You'll have to guide me here on the camera. So bring me up to the camera. Actually, I'll use your club.
Yeah.
Is the golf ball, in terms of understanding gear effect, right? So is this good here?
Yeah,
Can
it's
you see it?
perfect.
Okay. So in terms of understanding what the golf ball does, we call it gear effect because of the way the golf ball interacts with the golf club. So the simplest layman's way to understand this is the golf ball will always try to move towards the center of the club face. So a ball that's hit low on the club face will try to move up. That's that ball you see take off and kind of rise and spin.
Totally.
The ball that gets hit high on the face will launch higher and spin less because the ball is trying to move down towards the center. It doesn't actually move downward. You don't get top spin. You just get less backspin. The ball that's hit on the toe will try to move towards the center, producing draw. The ball that's hit on the heel will move towards the center, producing a fade. So the ball's just always trying to move in that direction. So the one you hit prior to that was hit low heel. And so that ball is going to ride up the face. It's going to be spinning. We saw that ball kind of do that. So before you start trying to fix something in your motion, understand, maybe I just need to get the strike more in the center.
Sure.
And so let's see what happens on the next one.
And so talking about understanding the swing too, when we were doing the pressure practice inside on the sim, I always feel like with my irons, I know exactly where the face is. I struggle with that with my driver and my 3-wood as far as figuring out where the center is. Don't know why that is, just putting that in.
Well, I think some of it is just not evaluating it enough. Like, you're a good enough feeler to have some idea. Let's see what happens here. Now we get the snapper left, hitting the same spot.
Yeah, roughly.
Higher and more center. So yeah, so that face was closed on that. So now we're talking about that compensating.
Yeah,
So
finding the left, finding the right.
one of the struggles with the driver, particularly with the motion we have you working on, is there's a challenge, a significant challenge, and that is those arms got to stay straighter longer through the impact frames, both back here and there,
Okay.
and letting the pelvis go, not the whole body.
Yeah,
So still low and around like you've been talking about.
yeah.
And they got to stay straighter this way rather than you trying to snap the face closed there.
You describing that feel makes sense to me. Let's see if I can put it together.
So that should keep the face less closed. Good.
Better and still in the same spot.
Okay, so now we're getting the same strike, which is great. Now how do we get the face more closed?
Yeah.
Without doing what you did there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at your level, I don't need the manipulation in the face to get it to turn left. Like that club face is probably open about 2 degrees.
Sure.
It's not open a ton. So if we want to take that away, as you take it back, just keep it a little more hooded in your takeaway.
And this could be
That's
also
the straighter arms piece that we're pushing on both sides.
That's fair. This also it makes total sense. And this could also be where people, I'm just thinking about if this was happening before my round. The motion is technically fine,
Right.
but people are going to take those swings and say, "Oh my God, I'm not going to be playing well today."
Right. No. Don't go there. Keep it simple. You're not as bad as you think you are. You're also worse than you think you are, but that's another conversation.
And the other
for
thing
another
too
day.
is when people don't understand something, they take it to an extreme as well.
Right.
So if they're not understanding why it's happening, then they're going to immediately go to black that we talk about as far as
Yep.
color codes of awareness.
Right. Those golf balls are stacking up beautifully on the face. So just by keeping it a little more closed in the takeaway, by keeping the arms a little straighter.
And there we go, dead center
Dead
strike.
center. So that one cut maybe 5 yards, maybe. And for me, that's a variance that I don't really care about. If it goes straight or cuts 5 yards or draws 5 yards, You're hitting it in the center. You feel like you got control of your motion, just keep going. Hit another.
And so while I hit another one here, can you describe to people too, because I think the biggest beef, especially that we have with swing tips on TikTok or YouTube, is the fact that that swing tip for me is not going to be the same for somebody who's watching it. So based on this lesson that we've kind of given me, what is something that people can think about when they are evaluating their own swing as well?
So I'll first say this is my disclaimer, is that let's assume for a second that all the tips on TikTok, YouTube, whatever, that they're all good information. That was wonderful there. That's a good one to pause on for a minute.
Yeah.
So great. Yeah,
Little
you can
high.
show the camera there on those last two. So center, and then that one was center but also up higher.
A little higher, yep.
And that ball didn't move a lick.
No, it didn't.
Yeah. So the disclaimer is like, let's assume they're all correct. And by and large, most of those tips are pretty good. The problem is is that error particular to me? Right? I call YouTube the WebMD of golf instruction, right?
Yeah.
That's why we've largely avoided swing tips.
Yep.
The other thing that you don't understand when you're watching those is, let's say it does work for you for a short period of time. How long does it last? Where does that swing go? Because that's the piece that's missing. Scott Wilkerson, for those that know him that are faithful listeners, he's the UST shaft rep on the PGA Tour and Live Tour. So he's been fitting, he's one of the best fitters in the world, been fitting for 25 years. And if I have a player that needs something that's a little more nuanced in terms of the fit, I'll say, hey, this is what we're working on. This is where I want the swing to go. I know for a fact that this and this I don't like, but I don't know the specific. I'm not knowledgeable enough of the shaft makeups, enough of the variations. I know a lot, but I need something a little different here, where I need a club that's both going to work now, but it's also going to send the swing in this direction.
Yeah.
And so when he's fitting, he's understanding where's the swing going. Remember, it's never in a static spot. So even if you change something, even if it works for a period of time, for those that are listening, sign me up. I've been in this category. When I was younger, is you try a swing tip and it works for a while, then it stops working. That's because it probably, let's assume for a fact that you actually did the thing. Most of the time,
And did it right every time.
Right. Most of the time people don't do the thing, or they do it a little bit and then they just revert. That's usually the answer, is that you revert. But let's assume for a second you actually do the thing, you actually change that thing, but it stops working. Typically, that's a lack of foresight in terms of where is this heading. It might actually be taking you to a worse golf swing. So then they go to another swing tip to fix that problem, and either the old problem comes back or they produce another error. And so this is the person that's like...
Thus taking you further away from where you were to Steven start.
Right. So this is where people get in traps and they run circles, and this is where the swing thought list gets really long, and then their buddy says this, very well-meaning, mind you, and then just we head down this spiral staircase that leads to nowhere, and you're just totally lost. And so, there's a slew of different ones that lead people there. I think the common ones that come from your peers, or even from young golf instructors that don't really know what they're talking about, been there, done that, but is like, there are common things that people say and suggest that just aren't true. Like, well, it helped me. I was like, yeah, but did it? Like, did it really?
Well, like, quantify
because you're not
that,
actually better.
Yeah.
Right. So, should we go through them? My least favorites?
Yeah, come on, let's do these. We'll round it up.
So let's go, grab your 8-iron.
Yeah.
We'll have some fun with this. Maybe we'll hit from this one. I don't know if Zach, you'll have to tell me where the edge of my camera is in terms of standing over there. But this is where life gets fun for me, right? Is it on the crate? Yeah. So can I have Jack hit from like here? Yeah. And I'm good here? Okay. That'll be fun to listen to on the podcast at home driving.
We're gonna call it the raw uncut YouTube video, and like point people towards the YouTube
uncut video here. So let's take for instance the player that's like topping it a whole bunch.
Okay.
Right. So
I'll make my best impersonation.
Right. Go ahead and set up there. All right. Let's see if you can royally top it. Like, absolutely screw it up.
Absolutely screw it up. All right.
Yep. Just top the crap out of it. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Something like that. You can top it worse than that.
I can.
It's hard to try to hit it bad on purpose, isn't it?
It is.
I'm also trying to stand where I don't get hit by a...
Oh.
Yeah. And so, common things people say when that happens. I lifted up on that one.
Oh, dude, that's the worst.
I picked my head up. I picked my head up. Keep your head down. Like, all of that is like one of the worst possible things you can possibly do. Like, I picked my head up on that one, and so I'll show them video, and their head is just down here forever. Okay, so like, hey man, your head did not pick up. Like,
yeah.
It literally, I haven't in 15 years of teaching and coaching had a video where somebody's head actually looked up.
Does that actually happen, period?
I haven't seen it, and in Hank's 50 years of teaching and coaching is never the head, never ever ever will be the head. If anything, it's the head moving. Now, people can get their head too far forward or too far back.
Sure.
But they didn't pick it up.
Yeah.
And so, well, I felt like I picked my head up. Well, this motion out of your arms and hands doing this will lift the club head away from the ground, right?
Probably
Just
feels like
that.
picking the head up too.
Right.
In their way, yeah.
So this is back to the, like, what is actually happening. So the better way, go ahead and set up to that golf ball. I'm in the frame right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when somebody tops the golf ball or thins it really bad, that club is functionally, the bottom of the arc is above the center line of the golf ball. So that's what creates the top. Now, this is where people go, I picked my head up. Well, I felt like I picked my head up. Okay. Do you feel like you picked your head up because you've been told you picked your head up? Whether you were told it or whether you told yourself it. Or did you feel it through some other sensation? Now, go ahead and set up there. I want you to keep your head down in its position. I'm going to move the club so something else has to move.
Yep.
Okay? So if I do this, so you feel that move, that's great. I want you to move with me.
All right.
Right?
Yeah,
now, you feel your arms do this.
Picking up, yep.
Where do you feel that?
In my neck.
In your neck. Yeah. And so you feel like you picked your head up.
For sure.
But you didn't pick your head up. You actually did the wrong thing with your arms and hands. So this is an arms and hands functionality problem.
Interesting.
Now, there are other people who keep their head down great and their body stand straight up like this. I'm trying to keep my head down. You're doing a great job of it. How about you let your head go up and let the pelvis go back?
Yeah.
So it is probably one of my least favorites of, like, the things. Like, I picked my head up. And this is the same person, like, what'd you try to do on that one? I was trying to keep my head down. I'm like, we haven't worked on that at all.
Yeah.
I'm giving you 3 lessons and you just threw that one in? Like, what's that about? It is not your head. Never ever will be. Never ever has been. Stop it.
And it's probably these people too, just like wanting to attempt to convey to you what they are feeling, and that like they're wanting you to confirm that that's right.
Right. No, it's wrong.
But
like,
they are feeling something wrong. It's just not in the right place.
Right. And so somebody tells them, well, I'm picking my head up. No, you're not picking your head up. Your head is down. So that's most of the problem with keeping the head down. Now, here's the other one. Go ahead and set up there. You're a fairly athletic dude. You take good care of yourself. So put the club on this side of the golf ball for me. All right, I'm going to keep your head down. I want you to try to swing the club forward for me. What has to, that's hard to do. Now, imagine you're an older guy who can't move his pelvis that well. So don't let your hips rotate. How do you finish the golf swing? All these are going to have to bend.
Yeah. Oh.
And so you get a chicken wing like that.
Oh, so yeah, you're going to come like almost like a helicopter.
Because you don't have mobility in your neck. So the head has to rotate.
Yep.
The head can rotate back. It can even move up and down a little bit. That's for another podcast, but it's
a big hold off.
It can't stay down. Like, it has to rotate. So I use the phrase, let your eyes follow the golf ball. Mm-hmm. So if you're somebody who thinks they need to keep their head down, they've been trying to keep their head down, just do this for me. Let your eyes follow the golf ball and let your arms and hands chase the golf ball. Right, so we need the arms to swing, right? This is not swinging. It's picking up a heavy bag or, pulling a lawnmower, right? Like, no, I just need the eyes to follow the golf ball and the arms and hands to follow the golf ball as well. Just let it swing. It's called swinging.
And that's what I've loved about your teaching, especially, is just that you will describe one motion. It makes sense to the person hearing it, and then a bunch of other variables will then fall in the right place.
Correct. Now, here's my second least favorite one. I don't know if this might be my first, but It's not as common now as it was roughly 8 or 10 years ago. This was used a lot more. I heard it a lot more. Go ahead and sit up there. So we're back to somebody who, let's go to somebody who hits it fat. Okay? Thin or fat.
Should I do my best impression?
Yeah, do your best impression to hit like 6 inches behind the golf ball.
That was probably more of a top.
Well, the funny was you actually kept your head down there. So you actually hit it in the heel. Just keep your low point behind it.
There's a fatty.
So, first things first. So just like we did before, we talked about the low point. You have to evaluate the golf ball, then the club, then the player, right? So go ahead and sit up there. This is the same for every instructor. If your instructor just asks you to change something, it's like, is it because you just don't like the look of it or because it actually doesn't work? All right. And you do it for yourself. So if you're hitting it fat, that means the low point of our golf swing, the bottom of it, happened behind the golf ball. Same thing with a thin ball, generally speaking, not always, but we know for a fact with a fat shot that the low point was back here. A thin ball could be because your weight's too far forward. It could also be because the low point's back here, right? So if we hit the ground before we get to the golf ball, so functionally, the low point of the arc is just too far back. So the only thing we need to do there is move the arc forward. Now, the same goes for a thin ball, so that we go with the head down. So if the head down isn't the thing, they tell them this one, and the same thing for this one. And sometimes this fat shot is also caused by this tip. Go up to the top of your backswing and stop. All right, you got to hit down on this one. Okay, all right. What type? Well, okay, there it is. You just showed it, right?
Yeah.
What kind of golf swing do most people have?
And over the top.
Over the top, right? That's what we see most of the time, as much as I hate that phrase, over the top. But we see more slices than anything else.
Yep.
Now, when people are trying to hit down, they're going this way, and they're going to swing over the top. The other one for me is like, you got to hit down to swing up to the top. Our brains translate words in certain ways. So the club's already up in the air. It's the only thing it can do is swing down. Like last time I checked, nobody got up here. The golf ball launched up in the air and then you served it like tennis.
Hit it up there.
That would actually be hitting down, or you'd have to do something to hit down on that one. It's already on the ground, the hands are in the air. Like the club is already swinging down. So the only way people translate that, for most people, is they might transfer their weight forward, which may or may not be a good thing, but they are most likely going to go this way. If we walk that driving range and ask the 12 or 15 people there to swing down and we had TrackMan out, I'd be willing to bet you more than 50 or 60% of those, probably even higher, I'm being conservative on my number, would swing more, they'd have a more leftward path.
Yeah.
Every time. So I hate that one. So we're back to like, where is the swing going? Like, that's why I teach the way I teach and why I teach my teachers to teach the way they teach. So hit another one, hit a couple. Let you get
good ones.
You go back, yeah, hit some good shots.
Actual good ones, okay.
So now that I've taken you through all these bad golf swing movements, can you go back and refine your good swing?
Wow.
Back to my same point of you got to be careful where you're going and what you're toying around with.
It ain't that so true too, because just talking about swinging it, it's just pure feel, right?
Right. Now we've messed with all those feels and took you with a, yep.
Bingo.
Okay, good. We got you back online. Now, the third one for me is, I don't know, I have a couple that are ties in my book. Like there's a part of me that wants to go the road for like the third one being, you know, we got to swing harder. That's a big one right now.
Yeah.
It's fixing your setup to me is overrated. Is it important for the long-term development? Yes. Short-term, depending on the level of player, no. Like, it's just really not. So, it's important the better you are. The better you get, the more important it becomes. I don't know. Hit a couple and ask another question. I don't know which one I want to give. Those are definitely my top two.
Last
Zach,
one, best
am I missing
one.
Something else? Zach's heard me teach a good bit. There might be one that I'm not. What? Yeah, that was my next thought. Is like everybody uses the phrase they want to be more consistent.
Oh, that's a curse word to you.
Yeah, it is. It's profanity. It's not a 4-letter word. It should be a 4-letter word. This to me is the biggest one, is people that want to be really good. Keep hitting, you're good. They want to be more consistent, but this is what, we'll trade seats here in a second. They want to be more consistent, and I'll tell you what I want you to do, and then I'll have you do it. Good swing. So we'll trade spots. You're going to be the teacher, I'm going to be the student for a second. So I come to you, I go, hey, I want to be more consistent. Yeah, you got to get in closer so you're on camera. Hey, Jack, I want to be more consistent. And so if I get a student that does that, my favorite first thing to do is to have a little piece of paper, sit and go, and it could be on my phone, could be whatever, and just, we're going to do a little exercise. So after every single swing, I want you to ask me, what were you thinking about on that one? And you can like change your inflection, like you can kind of lead them a little bit to try to pull out of them what happened. So this is fairly typical for players. This is why I hate the word, I want to be more consistent. I'm going to kind of not really debunk it.
What happened on that one?
I hit that one off the toe. I was just trying to stay down on that one. There I am using those phrases. Just trying to stay down on that. Since it's club short, I was just trying to stay down on that one. All right. Oh, all right. Ooh, hit that one good.
What about that one?
I was thinking about trying to swing to the left. I was trying to go more left on that one. All right. Let's see.
What about that one?
I was trying to swing more to third base on that one. I was trying not to swing so far to the right.
I can already see where you're going here.
Right, so I'll do one more. So I hit that one a little chunky. All right.
What about that one?
Oh, that's pretty good. I tried to hit down on that one.
Yeah.
So now I'm using all the buzzwords, right? The problem is they didn't have the same thought.
Why do you want to be consistent if your thoughts aren't the same?
Right, so I was trying to keep them in the same family.
Sure.
But you cannot have a consistent swing unless you have a consistent thought. You're not going to. The other thing with the consistent thing is you already are consistent. You just don't like what it is. Like, oh man, I'm just not very consistent. Well, what do you shoot? I shoot between like 82 and 96. Like, okay, last time I checked, tour players shoot somewhere between low 60s, 62, 63, and 75. Sometimes they make the cut, sometimes they don't. In fact, most of the guys aren't making the cut every week.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're not consistent either. Yours is just way higher than it needs to be. And it doesn't matter the level of player that comes in, they're asking for the same thing. I was like, no, you're asking for the wrong thing and it's too vague. I want to be more consistent. Well, what does that mean? Define that. Give me a definition. How do we know when we're there? There's no way to know where you're at. All right, I want an increasing level of control over my golf ball. So I like control over consistent, use another con word, because control is, all right, I had a bunch of different strikes there. I had one off the toe, I had one a little heavy, I had one that was really solid and really good. It faded a little bit. Like, I want more control over the centerness of contact. All right, first thing I want you to do, I'm gonna want you to hold your pelvis really still and keep your head in the same place. So pelvis still, head still. I still want the head to follow the ball, but as you're swinging back, I want pelvis still, head still. All right. Pelvis still. I'm going to use legs. Pelvis doesn't translate well for me. So I'm going to go knees still. We're going to make it kind of rhyme or alliteration. Knees still, nose still. Knees still, nose still. All right, give me another one. Felt like I did a good job keeping my knees still and my nose still.
Yeah, what'd you feel that time?
Kind of felt like I described it. Knees still, nose still. It's a little toey. I'm going to try to do a little bit better job of the same thing. Knees still, nose still.
Now that you've controlled two variables, though, you can start to measure what's happening as
well.
Right,
and I'm not wandering.
Increasing control.
And so this is where well-meaning friends don't understand what's happening, right? Like, oh, you should try this. Now, tour players will try stuff from each other all the time. And high-level college players that know what they're doing will do this. But they may not stay with it. They may just kind of learn where a new, edge is. Like, where's the box that I live in?
Yeah.
Like, let me kind of touch this edge of the box or go outside of it to learn something. But they'll typically come back to their way of doing it. My favorite, we both love the TaylorMade stuff with like Morikawa and DJ. And,
yeah, just all their tour players talking.
And my favorite one is when they're doing wedges.
Yeah.
They're all describing their way of hitting said shot.
God, and like what they're describing too is just so interesting. They're like a little bit more like Tiger will go a little less hands. It's like, well, what does that mean for you? That's really cool to me. Is just see how.
Yes, no, I agree with that. So now that I'm kind of dialing this in, here's my actual third.
All right,
one.
here we go.
So the third one is I got to pull with my left side. All right, last time I checked, if I try to hit a golf ball with just my left hand on the club, I'm not going to hit it nearly as far or as good as I am with my right hand. Sorry, I'm way stronger with my dominant side than my non-dominant side. Now, there's some baseball players that I can do, like if you're a hitter, and you're not much of a pitcher, we'll do a lot of left side stuff because you're used to that. But for most people, their dominant side, especially you get a tennis player, hockey can usually do both.
Yeah, I bet tennis would be definitely dominant side.
Dominant side, right?
Forehand, yeah.
So like I can hit it way harder and way farther with my right side. Like when we did the one arm with Alex, like he's left-handed,
yep.
right? Just got his left hand on the club, pulling with his left because he's only got one arm. So you can produce speed that way, but most people are trying to pull with their left because they read somebody else, Hogan, wanted to pull with the left. He also wished he had 3 or 4 right arms.
Yeah.
Right, because there's a lot of power in that right side.
For sure.
It's your dominant side. Like, last time I checked, if I try to throw a ball left-handed, it's not going to be as coordinated. No. I'm not saying don't train the left side. It is way too common. And the worst is when it's coming from a player who already slices the golf ball. So I'm going to pull with my left
Just
side.
promoting it
if I'm
even
pulling with my
more.
left side, do you think most people pull this way? Maybe if you're a baseball player.
Yep.
Or do they pull this way?
Definitely that way, producing a huge slice.
Right, because it's easier to pull this way.
For sure.
Than it is to pull that way.
It's also what we talked about earlier, that over the top that most people have anyway. Pulling over the top and pulling across.
Right, so you get your triple threat guy, your guy that's trying to pull with his left. I don't even want to get into the rotation thing. That's a big debate I don't want to do today. We'll do that on another one. But like, they want to pull with their left, keep their head down. Pull left, keep the head down. What was the third one?
Swing
across,
down. Swing down and across,
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm going to try and do all 3 of those. What do I get? I just take these big crater divots. Yeah, of course you do. You're trying to pull down with your left, hit down, and keep your head down. So you get these low, chunky cuts or big slices or pop-ups with the driver. So it's what I tell my staff, get away from the golf lingo. All right, I want the knees to hold still. I don't want them to move, and I want the nose to hold still, particularly in the backswing. I'm describing exactly what it is. All right, I want you to swing more in to out. Brain doesn't have a translation for that.
No.
All right, so when you get to the top, you're going like this. I want you to go like this. Okay, what does that mean? How do you do that, right? Like, describe the thing. Like, if you see them over the top of what? There's not a table over here that we're trying to swing over the top of it, right? So it's, where is the club? All right, the club shaft moves towards the target line, and then once it gets there, it moves to the left of the target line. Why does it do that? Well, from the top, sir, you are transferring, your right hip is moving onto your right leg, and therefore the club is moving out away from your body, and then you pull it across your body to the left with your arm. So describe the thing exactly as it is, not keep your elbows in. How? In where? In here? In this way? Like, what does in mean? I can keep my elbows in and put my arms up here.
You can see how this is crucial too, because like I talked about in a previous episode, your brain's job is to hit the ball at whatever cost, right?
Right.
So with the wrong motions, you're going to create the wrong outcome. It's also the blessing in disguise of how you can re-engineer that and follow it all the way back to figure out what the diagnosis is.
Right, is the player slicing it to the right because the club face is open? Or is it slicing to the right because the path is to the left? Or is it slicing to the right because the path is to the right? Like if somebody's already afraid of swinging to the right, if I ask them to swing more towards first base, the club face is going to present more open, not less. Right? If their club face is already open, they come this way. So if I get that club face open and then I try to swing to the right, I'm going to go right of right. almost hit you in the ankle. That would have been for some great content. So this is why trade me spots. When I've tried to ask you to do it, I either demonstrate like, here's where you are, here's where I want you to be, or I'll do this. And this is the best form of teaching. So the most commonly used form of instruction is words. It is the least effective. Every time, hands down, it's the least effective. So, we still rolling? So go ahead and set up there. So when we talk about, I had you do this with your pelvis, right? So swing back. You're trying to rotate and you didn't need to really rotate all that much. So take the club back. Good. Start the club down. So I had you wanting to do more of this and then to stay. So some of your best teachers will put your hands on the student a lot. And that's not just for golf, that's in other things
Everything,
as well.
yeah.
Like the shooting instruction I'm taking with Ken,
Yeah.
he manipulates me a bunch.
Sure.
Because that allows me to feel it
yep.
in my words,
Bingo.
in my own body language.
Yes.
Because movement, putting you in the right place the right way, nobody can translate that wrong. But if I say, hey, get your weight to your left side, with what?
And what does that
Do
mean?
you get it that
Yeah.
way? Do you get it this way? Do you get it this way? Do you translate getting to your left side like this and you're actually more on your right side?
Right.
Or more left and this is more right, or more this way and this is more left. Like, how does that translate? So you can't just say get your weight to your left side. You have to be more specific. Visual demonstrations are helpful. They're better than words. This is why video is so good for the game of golf. TrackMan numbers can be helpful more for nuance and understanding what the golf ball does.
And probably once you have a more refined swing as well, because that's how you teach at the highest level, right? Because at that point you're looking for the millimeters.
The degree and a half here, the 2 degrees there, the mile an hour here or there.
Especially once you have a consistent swing as well, right?
Correct.
Because then you can take out all the other stuff that's already there.
Good.
Not my best. I heard something interesting recently. It was it's from Chipper Jones, Hall of Fame baseball player, and I think it really coordinates to golf as well. He was just saying the best hitters are the ones who are able to keep their eyes still for as long as possible, specifically in baseball. But I'm translating that with golf because you were talking about knees and nose, right?
Yep.
And just if you don't have something to reference for, especially for your feels, if that moves at all, well, that interrupts everything that happens on the backside as well. I was curious if that translates in golf.
I think that singular line of focus, to me, it's more of a quiet mind. Quiet eyes is more, to me, in the pre-shot routine. Like when people get over the golf ball and they look up, their eyes will wander. Like they'll look at the thing over there. That should be done before you ever grab a club. Like, all right, what's over there on the right, what's over there on the left? So having the eyes narrowly focus in on that singular place, fully aware if there's trouble over there on the right or whatever it is. To me, that's more from the play side, less from the technique side.
Sure.
Which is out there, the eyes are quiet, they're not wandering around to all the trouble.
Yeah.
I'm sure your fielders can fool with batters, I don't know. Like you get right as that pitch goes off.
I would say for pitching, you've heard this in a lot of the Trevor Bauer videos. He tries to play with timing, right? But that's if he's got like a high leg kick, or if he just goes slide step, or if he hangs up for a little bit and then goes. So it just all depends on what you're used to.
And so a poor batter will follow all those movements.
Well, it's more like they'll get in a routine, right? Routine. And then as soon as he wants to mix it up and go quick, now
they get distracted by all those movements.
But that's in golf, that's us thinking about different swing thoughts or whatever, right? It's taking your focus away from what you're actually trying to do.
Well, that guy just keeps moving over there. I'm like, dude, if you're paying attention to the person moving and talking the whole time, then you're not paying attention to what you're doing.
100%. That's also why you'll feel like the best, when you hear athletes talk about iconic moments in their career, whether that's a game-winning shot or they hit, an incredible shot to, inches in a major, right? They'll say like, well, what were you hearing? What you're seeing? They're like, I don't remember hearing anything.
Right.
Remember, because they're just
I was so into
so
my space.
just tunnel vision. I always think that that's just so cool. Just gives you a little insight to what they were actually
typically
feeling.
Can't happen unless the skill's really high. That's why I kind of laugh a little bit at, I read a ton on sports psychology and read a lot on the psychology side and deal with it. But typically you have to use some pretty basic stuff if the technique's pretty weak. It's more, hey man, we just got to fix it. The technique sucks. It's just functionally not going to work.
Oh, that's my best one all day.
And so then is like, what's causing the ball to do that? What did the ball do? What did the club do to cause that? And then what did you physically do? So the trap people get into, to kind of close this out, the trap people get into is when they don't know exactly where the golf ball sit on the club face. Because you can hit a good shot.
Well, and that's
hit slightly off the toe or slightly off the
yeah.
heel, which is why we saw that little baby cut on one of your first drives. Well, that was a little baby cut, but it was hit slightly on the toe. So you think, hey, that's really good. Well, the club face is more open than you think it is because the toe strike hid the cut. And so if you start trying to fix something that's not actually there just because somebody told you to fix something, it's like we got to get rid of this like cosmetic, it has to look pretty. Now, generally speaking, the more cosmetically pretty it is, generally speaking, you are more in line with physics. However, you can't fix all of it. We need the one that's going to make the ball do something different.
Well, and you're telling me that, I'm sure you would tell me that that looks good, but the biggest thing and the only thing that matters is, can I understand why that was so good? And taking you through my headspace on that last one, it was a little bit of a floaty cut that I had because it was off that toe and it just kind of fell to the right. I played my game and I said, okay, just a little bit more of a compact swing, felt the club face, that anchoring the club face that we were talking about, can find that middle.
The challenge with a sport, especially like golf, is I can kind of lead people to a certain place, but I can't tell you exactly what it's going to feel like. They're like, what should I feel on this one? I have no clue. Let me put you in the spot and you tell me what you feel. This is back to the podcast we talked about where people were, we talked about the student, like you borrowing my brain, not just using my brain.
Bingo.
Right? Because I don't have a clue what it's going to feel like. I can put you there, but your feel is going to be your feel. And your feel will change over time, but your fundamentals won't. So the reason why your feels will change is you get more accustomed to it, right?
Yeah.
It's no different than like, I don't know, let's use a certain amount of caffeine, right? Like a certain amount of caffeine at some point won't be good enough to wake you up in the morning. You'll become addicted to it.
It's true.
So your feel for that level of caffeine,
right?
You normalize
more
to that. So
to generate
I
this
need another
response.
one. And so the same deal here is people keep trying to chase the same feel. It's like, no, you're going to have to be okay with the feel evolving over time because you're going to evolve as a player. You can get stronger, you get weaker. You're going to be more flexible, less flexible.
Yeah.
You're going to be more warmed up, less warmed up. Your swing's going to get better, and so its reference point is in a totally new place.
Seems like you just need to grow your self-awareness more than anything.
Correct. Be okay going wherever that goes. The ball's going to tell us.
Right.
Right. And the ball's going to tell us, and the club's going to tell us what the ball did, and then that informs us what we're doing.
All right. I think this would be a fun way to close it out real quick. We'll play our classic shot game. Mid swing.
Ooh, this is a fun one. I don't advise people try this. Do not try this at home. This is by trained professionals. All right, so I'm going to call out a shot. Oh, I'm going to get back in the camera so people can see me. I'm going to call out a shot for Jack to hit. I'm going to call it out mid backswing. So he's got some fraction amount of time, less than 0.2 of a second to make a correction, basically. So you've got your stock swing you're setting up for and going off of, and then can you manipulate those? And
the reason we've done this is just why? Explain to the viewers why this is a fun game to do. Maybe.
To me, one of the things it's helpful to do is helpful to get players to react.
Manipulate,
and not chase perfect.
Yeah.
So, because there are going to be shots you're going to need to hit when you get to the higher levels. Like if you can't break 90, don't worry about trying to hit all these shots. But when you're breaking 70, having some of these, and it's fun, it's a change of pace. But as you develop some skills to manipulate golf club and things like that.
It is a fun one. We've done this for a while, and it's always been fun, and they're not going to be perfect, but it's good just to be able to manipulate the hands.
Right. So we got high, low, and mid.
Yep.
And then we've got straight, draw, and fade.
Yep.
So, all right, you ready?
Yeah, just on my backswing here.
Yep. Low cut. Okay, good try.
And I was selling out to the draw, too.
Yep. I knew you were going to do that.
Maybe I just need to be like Hideki here.
Low straight. Good.
That was great.
Nice manipulation. That was fantastic. The other thing this does is help me see what level of awareness does a player have.
That's what I was going to say.
And how do they manipulate based on a verbal command.
And as well, like, the goal of this is not to be perfect, but I think that being able to train that reaction is going to be good for you no matter where the game takes you.
Right. It's just a good athletic movement. I get to learn how people try to change things, which is...
And it makes sure that your stock backswing is going to be the same no matter what as well.
They don't get a chance to change their setup, so they're going to have to manipulate motion. They can't manipulate setup to hit the shot.
All right, here we go.
High draw. Good. Didn't quite get as high as we wanted, but you got the draw. You could tell you were trying to send it up.
I was trying to use those hands.
Mid straight.
That was fun. One more here.
High cut. Nice.
Yeah,
a little thin. Otherwise, it would have been higher.
But it worked. Cool, man.
So that's just a fun something to do if you're a better player. And lets me see how you manipulate. You're so good out of your hands, but you also change where some of that weight is.
Yep.
So one of the ones I would want to see out of you from the high standpoint is when you try to hit it high, is for you to keep that chest back more.
It's been so hard just because our whole thinking with me is just getting that weight to the front side because of the baseball.
Yeah, to the front side, right?
Yeah, there you go. There's
so
again.
The pelvis shifting forward. Now you have your feel and your thought with it.
That's right.
Now just finish off with your stock shot. We'll call it a day.
I'm gonna try and hit one of those high ones now that you want me to do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
Just like that.
So the pelvis still does the same thing.
Yep.
But the top half does something different.
Contact was so good on that one.
I know, because you maintained the pelvis piece.
For sure.
So you didn't change too much. You
just
changed
feels like hitting a homer though.
Well, that's true. So, that's good. I don't know what else. Is that it?
That's good, man. Well, this just a reminder for people watching on audio. Thanks for hanging with us. This is a raw one that we're going to use for YouTube content. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, No Mulligans podcast, thanks so much for watching. This was a fun one to do, and maybe we'll do like a long drive competition between the two of us at some point.
The funny part is we can generate the same amount of club head speed. You can generate a few more miles an hour than I can.
But your solidness of contact is a lot better.
But my overall emotion's more efficient. So
yeah,
that's the fun part. So
awesome. Well, thank you guys for watching.
Thanks from the practice tee. From the warm up tee at Franklin Bridge. It's Scott, Jack, Zach, and Sam.
There we go.
This is the No Mulligans pod. We'll see you on the next one.
Peace.
Yes!
Bang! We got
Trying to finish it. Did I do it, Coach?